The Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater started in the 50s, and by the mid to late 50s was already a going concern. I had mentioned to you earlier about the Jewish People Schools, which was another one of the day schools, at that time separated from the Peretz schools, the Peretz Schule. Eventually they came together, but that was many decades later. But in the 50s, Jewish People School was a day school, Zionist-based, and they asked Dora to help with some afternoon activities after school with some of the graduates of the Jewish People School. And so she actually began in their gymnasium. And what was she doing? She was performing with a number of the young graduates of the Jewish People School and was putting on plays, using plays from the Yiddish canon of theater. And from that, very soon, grew the Yiddish Dramatische Gruppe, the Yiddish Drama Group, which then became the Yiddish Theater, and many years later was turned into the official name, the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater, which today is housed at the Siegel Center for Performing Arts in Montreal. So it is now the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater at the Siegel Center for the Performing Arts. Say that 10 times quickly. So we began in the late 50s, and by the early 60s had already begun to do a lot of very interesting theater, which consisted of trying to do the canon of famous Yiddish theater work, adding to that new work which Dora would commission, and she would work with some of the great Yiddish lyricists and composers and dramatists. And for example, we did a number of plays, one of them with Singer, who of course then won the Nobel Prize, and we were very, very lucky to have had him here when we did one of his plays after he had won the Nobel Prize. And so we have really worked, and Dora introduced us to the greats. We're very fortunate, really, looking back. We were very privileged to have been able to do this. But Dora was a force. She was a life force. And Dora had a tremendous shrewdness and understood what was possible and understood what you needed to do to be able to motivate people. And so she brought on cadres of young people, and as they got older, brought in their children, and now we're into the third and even fourth generation, now well over 50 years. We actually celebrated our 50th 2 years ago. And so it gives you an idea that this has been around for a while. Dora suffered a stroke a few years prior to her death and brought in her daughter, Bryna, who was a trained director and was working in New York, and came to be with us and took over the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater and was the director for about 15 years, up until a year ago when she is in New York and is now sort of working between New York and Montreal. And the Dora Wasserman Yiddish Theater is still a very lively and exciting place, and we still put on at least one play a year. We do a lot of touring. We've toured all over North America. We've toured over Europe. We've been to Israel a number of times, and we'll continue to do so.